Man, where do we begin? We have been on a journey of healthy lifestyle for the past 20 years. I'm Sean. This is my amazing wife, Tylene. We've been doing this quite some time. We started probably roughly 20 years ago or so. I want to share with you why we're here. And I don't really know what God's plan was, and we really weren't looking to find a company. We have been educating, doing what we do for a long, long time. You know, we always say more love, less judge.
Yes.
That's just who we are. We don't like to be labeled as anything as far as a diet or anything that way, right? We're not perfect. We're just people, and we like to surround ourselves with amazing humans. As Dr. Tim said earlier, we just feel we have a calling. We've tried to not do this many times. And we can't get away from it. We've got to work with people like Steve Nash. He's up there in the center. If there's any Canadians, he was two-time MVP of the NBA. I love sports. We've had a high school football coach. I coached for many, many years. And when we first started, we were really more of a education company business with no business plan or no business model. It was just like, we just got to share information. And we were really working mostly with doctors. Ty has worked with hundreds and hundreds of doctors, and we were kind of a therapeutic lifestyle line, if you will. And then all of a sudden, we started getting all these athletes, which I thought was super cool. And they were ordering product, and back then, there really wasn't, we weren't advertising or marketing. Somehow, some way, they were hearing about us. We have gotten to work with a lot of professional athletes and sports teams, and that's neat. I liked it. But it took us to a place I think we never really wanted to go, and that was retail. So we were in thousands and thousands of stores all over the world. It started in the U.S., stores like Whole Foods and Vitamin Shops, things like that. But there was one huge problem with all of that. Bottles don't talk. We lost ourselves. And so this is what we need to be doing. We need a platform with people like yourself so we can share simple information that can be shared and shared and shared again. Take it away.
Raw food versus cooked food. So prime example, today you got food, and there was an apple in there. So that's why we always like to use apples. And then there was an apple in your package today, and then there was chips. So that's representative of the burger that's up there. So I want you to really understand the difference between a raw food and a cooked food. So the raw food, like the apple or a banana or a pineapple or anything like that, even sashimi, like a raw salmon, it hasn't been cooked. So anything heated over 100, and people argue about this number, but let's say around 118 degrees or more, you're going to denature the food. You're going to render the enzymes pretty much dead in that food. So therefore, it's going to become harder for you to break it down and digest it. So a cooked food is anything that's been heated over 118 degrees. And that would include your orange juice. So if you make it fresh at home, it's alive and living and full of enzymes. As soon as you pasteurize it and heat it and cook it, then it's void of enzymes. It's going to be harder on your body to get the nutrients that particular food has to offer. So when we talk about enzymes, it's a life force of a living food, which gives you more life. Dead food, like this burger, or it could be burrito, or it could be rice, it could be cooked salmon, it could be broccoli, it could be anything. It could be something that you think is good, a protein bar, a protein drink. But if that thing has been heated and cooked, it's going to take away life from your body because it's so hard to get all the nutrients from it. So what we're going to teach you today isn't to take away anything you're doing, even though I like everyone to eat better, but it's not to replace any products you're taking. It is to complement what you're already doing. Someone mentioned the word consistency earlier, and that's so important with this product because you have to be consistent. Every single time you pick up a cooked food, you want to have that little capsule ready to go to take at the beginning of a meal. It's so, so important. I don't have enough time today to tell you why, but there's a huge anti-aging component to that. Because there's 3 types of enzymes. There's food enzymes that I just talked about that's in your food. There's digestive enzymes. That's what's in your saliva and your stomach. And then there is metabolic enzymes. They handle all this different processes in your body, and that's where the anti-aging begins, but I don't have time to get into it today, but it's fascinating.
So when this all started, it was really kind of magical in a way. At that time, I was in my early mid-30s. I was a head high school football coach out in Arizona. I won't say the names, but I had very bad pain in my hands. I couldn't throw the ball around with the guys anymore. I had acid reflux. I had indigestion. These types of things that I didn't really know why. I had already lost my mom to colon cancer, and I was doing my own research. I was trying to eat better. I was doing some juicing and things like that. One night, magical night, I get introduced to this lady. I remember her just telling me she had worked with some athletes and some different things, and I had been to several doctors in Arizona, Scottsdale, and Phoenix, and they weren't giving me the answers I wanted. One doc said I needed surgery. I didn't want to do that. I had lost a sister of mine my senior year in high school. She went in for a routine surgery on one of her ribs, and that particular doctor happened to be on the phone with his broker and gave her the wrong anesthesia, and she passed. So I've been pretty shy of going under the knife for anything since that time. And others wanted me on medication. I'm a true believer that none of us are drug deficient, we're nutrient deficient. When I met Tylene, she told me, the very first night I met her, she told me she wanted to save the world.
I'm still working on it.
Still working on it, but she drugged me into this deal because it took her 4 or 5 days start in a big way turning my health around. And I was pretty healthy. And from that moment on is when we decided about 3 years later, we have to get this information out there. I'm going to do with Tylene right now. I'll let you talk.
You can be my Vanna.
I'll be your Vanna. All right. About 20 years ago.
He's a sexy Vanna.
Oh, yes.
It'll work.
Sure.
What he's getting ready to do is show you something that I really encourage you all to do, which is to go get a cooked food. We like to use a little pudding cup. And this is a really good, I guess you'd call it a prop for you to educate your friends and family. We always say, who are we to not teach someone this? This is about education. This isn't about them buying anything. This is about them being educated so you can change their world. It's about prevention. You heard the lawyers say earlier, don't talk about disease and all those things. You won't have to if you are all about prevention. Let's prevent things before anybody ever gets a disease. That's a whole new concept. So what Sean's going to do is he's going to show you when he's stirring this pudding. I want you to know it's not liquefied already. So it's thick and clumpy and might fall out. And so that is a processed food, but it's also a cooked food. So it's to represent any cooked food. So don't get lost in the fact that it's pudding. That could be steak, it could be a potato, it could be lentils, it doesn't matter. It's a cooked food. It could be a sweet potato that's been cooked.
We're going to take our little veggie enzyme. It's a little bit of stabilized probiotics. It's a full spectrum plant-based plant enzyme with a little bit of stabilized probiotics. So I'm going to open this little veggie capsule.
And then what he's going to do is he's going to stir it. That's going to mimic the peristalsis action that naturally goes on in your stomach, the wave-like motion. And a capsule, just so you guys know, is a delivery method. So if you don't like capsules, open it up and pour it in your mouth. It doesn't matter. You can. I had somebody that would pour it on the burgers. Go for it. Do it.
So you just put this in, stir it up. It's a great visual for people to see how enzymes actually work. Don't get caught up on the pudding. You know, it's not about when people say, I don't eat pudding. No, but you eat cooked food, right? 99% of the population eats food that's heated, cooked, or processed in some way. You can see how quick that worked.
So with plant enzymes, they work in a broad pH range. So we don't use any animal anything. People do. They are out there. I'm not a big fan. I like the plant-based. It's going to work in a broader pH range, so it really works in the stomach. So you're going to see how this broke down that fast. Isn't that crazy? I'll clean the chair later over here. Here, pour it into this glass, just so everyone at home can see. Yeah, I don't want you to get hung up on the fact that it's chocolate pudding. We do this so we don't drink it after. If it was butterscotch, we might consider that. We do like butterscotch. But now this is considered like a pre-digested food. This will do this to steak. I mean, you know how you feel after you eat a big, heavy meal? You feel extended and bloated and uncomfortable, and you shouldn't feel like that. The whole reason we eat anything we eat is to get energy, is to create ATP. That's why we eat, is to get energy. So if you're eating and you want to take a nap, then clearly you didn't process your food all the way down to what you need to. And each enzyme is very specific. So there's macronutrients in your food, which is a protein, a carb, and a fat in all your food, okay? Macronutrient meaning larger molecule. And the whole concept of enzymes is to break it down to a small, usable molecule. So in the case of fats, lipase, and lipase digests fats. So if you had raw cheese or raw milk, that enzyme is present in that raw food to digest that particular thing in that raw food. But we cook and process all of our food. So now as a society, we've been eating far too much cooked and processed food, and we tend to run out of enzymes to break this stuff down. So we end up with issues like what Sean was saying, where he had terrible pain in his hands and in his body, and that was uric acid buildup. So uric acid is part of proteins that end up not getting all the way digested. So protein, a large molecule, has to break down into tiny molecules and eventually into an amino acid to feed your brain and to feed your muscles. If you don't have amino acids, you're not creating neurotransmitters. If you're not breaking everything down, you're not feeding, your heart's a muscle. You're not feeding your heart. So amino acids are really, really important. And you want to break them, you want to be able to break your proteins down to actually have an amino acid and not have it stay as uric acid, which actually can be detrimental in the body. And in Sean's case, very painful.
So let me just kind of simplify this. We're born with this pancreas. We have this little bank account, basically, of digestive enzymes, okay? The big mystery is we don't know what we start our life with. So even if all of us lined up across the stage and we were born on the same day at the same time, but we had different parents and different grandparents, we would all have a different amount of these enzymes in our little bank account, okay? Does that make sense? We take day one of our life and day two, and as we get older and older and older, we're depleting our little bank account of enzymes. It's really about preserving our enzyme bank account. And that's why now you're hearing issues, and you can look this stuff up for yourself. Little kids, now we have 6, 7, 8-year-olds with diseases, issues, whatever you want to call them, that used to be really for that latter part of life. Because it's the food changed after World War II. Our food really changed in this country, right? We started canning our food. You guys remember all this? And then, I don't know, I'm the youngest of 8. Maybe that's what attracted me to Dave. Dave's from a big family. I was like, holy cow, TV dinners.
Well, canning and TV dinners, anything like that, the whole idea of canning is to kill and get rid of all of the enzyme activity and the bacteria. So even the probiotics in here are extremely important for your body. It's a little maintenance supply of probiotics because every time you eat, you need some probiotics.